Welcome to today's video. I thought we'd escaped, but no, we are back in Vince Russo's nonsensical wrestling clutches. He is our booking chaos god, the changer of ways, the lord of sorcery, the weaver of destinies. What I'm saying is, I'm unhappy about this situation. Huge shout out, of course, to everybody on my Patreon, and thanks to those of you who voted for this particular pay-per-view. Thank you for supporting the channel, obviously, that's amazing. With that said, I can't believe you've done this again. So in early 2000, Vince Russo was relieved of his duties as WCW head writer, reportedly for pitching a storyline in which the title would be put on MMA fighter Tank Abbott, who was going to last eliminate Sid Vicious from some type of rumble or gauntlet or something with just a single punch. And honestly, it's not a brilliant idea, but in the pantheon of terrible Vince Russo ideas that would follow this particular instance, I think this is relatively inoffensive. It's Tuco from Breaking Bad. He seems terrifying at the time, but just you wait until that friendly guy who runs the chicken shop starts aura farming in the middle of a gunfight for no discernible reason. Anyway, I just think it was quite funny that this particular idea is reportedly the one that made WCW higher-ups go, whoa, we can't keep this guy in charge, he's too crazy. And his role was then given to the far more industry guy, I suppose, Kevin Sullivan. Kev lasted about a month or two, and then WCW thought, maybe we need this Russo guy back, actually. It's kind of fun, wasn't it? It's like watching the Trojan army welcome that lovely big wooden horse into their city. What could possibly go wrong? It's just a big lovely horse. Russo came back in the spring and was joined by a returning Eric Bischoff, who had also left his position in late '99. They were going to shake up WCW and revolutionize the programming, shaking it up by its very roots, and they did so by vacating every single one of the title belts in a now infamous episode of Nitro known as The Reboot. It's a radical move, I'll give them that. Maybe not radical in a cool surfer dude way, or in a necessary overthrowing of an authoritarian government sort of way. More in a juggling with hand grenades sort of way. And one of those hand grenades is Scott Steiner. So now, with all of the titles vacated, it's time for the first real big test of this grand reboot. The infuriating hedge maze of a pay-per-view known as Spring Stampede 2000. We have 14 matches to talk about, only one of them lasting over 10 minutes. Let's expect swerves, infuriating booking decisions, and the involvement of previously mentioned hand grenade Scott Steiner. My name's Jack the Jobber, and this is Very Weird Wrestling. Let's go. It's April 16th, 2000, and we are in the United Center in Sweet Home Chicago. Baby, don't you wanna go? As mentioned, the titles are as vacant as a Vince Russo attention span workshop, so we've got tournaments, or tournaments. You know how you guys might pronounce them if you're from the other side of the pond, but I say tournaments, okay? Point is, we've got tournament action. Way too much tournament action. Look, we all love a tournament arc. There's a limit. This is too much tournaments. So in the same show, we're going to see just the final of the tournament for the big belt, the WCW World title, which was taken from Sid, but also the complete bracket for the United States title, which was taken from Jeff Jarrett, and the complete but mercifully smaller bracket for the tag team titles, which were taken from the Harris twins, as I crane my neck to read my notes there. That's certainly a lot. That's a lot of tournament matches. But wait, there's more. We're also going to see a match for the vacant hardcore title, which was taken from Brian Knobbs, and a match for the vacant cruiserweight title, which was taken from the artist formerly known as Prince Ikea. It's a Prince gimmick. He was doing the artist formerly known as Don't worry about it. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, and in a sane world, you'd be correct. You might be thinking, hey Jack, wait a second. We always complain about the mad booking and everything of WCW back in the day, or in the latter days of that crazy promotion. But with all this tournament action, surely that means there'll be a refocusing on what really matters. The pro wrestling. On paper, this is a very unusual card for WCW in the year 2000. It feels a million miles away from the things we usually criticize it for. The stupid storylines, the self-insertion of behind-the-scenes people, the constant distractions from the actual pro wrestling in the ring. You see, as well as all of this tournament stuff, You've not just got Russo and Bischoff working on this behind the scenes. They are, and I don't think it's unfair to say this, they are the top 2 on-screen heels on the show. And not just that, they're feuding with the 2 biggest babyfaces. Russo is feuding with Ric Flair, and Bischoff has betrayed his old friend Hulk Hogan. Oh no! And he's masterminded a vehicular assault on Hogan as well. No, stop it, Eric! Stop it! I don't care. Actually, I do, because a weird thing is that Hogan's not actually on this card. Which is weird, he's the biggest name still in the company by far. But he's not on this show. I have a little feeling, though, that we might be seeing him somewhere down the line. Right, okay, finally it's time to get on with the show itself. Just kidding! We actually get a cold open. I have been doing a rewatch of Breaking Bad, yes. Russo is just being a cool heel guy, hanging out in the back with heel wonder kid Billy Kidman and his girlfriend Tori Wilson. But Eric Bischoff's in a bad mood, and he's totally killing their buzz, man. Eric's quite worried because he's heard that despite Hogan's injuries from that limo crash, Hogan's actually checked himself out of hospital. And now maybe he'll turn up to the arena tonight. Uh-oh. And then Russo's like, yeah, relax, man, that's never going to happen. Yeah, I feel like they run this storyline on every one of these WCW pay-per-views that I've covered on this channel. Whether it's like Hogan or Goldberg or whoever, it feels like the heels always do this thing where they're like, we've heard rumors that the babyface probably isn't going to show up tonight, so that we can do what we want and be big heels. And then, oh my God, they actually do turn up in the end. And it's kind of ripping off what they did with Austin in the Attitude Era over in the WWF. It's way too early to be getting annoyed. Too early in the video for that. At last, we are welcomed in by our wonderful announce team of Scott Hudson trying his best, Mark Madden trying his best to get himself over, and Tony Schiavone trying his best not to break down in absolute tears. Oh yeah, I feel like I've explained this 100 times as well, but this is kind of the start of the storyline that I always mention on this channel, the New Blood versus the Millionaires Club. So WCW's roster is divided in 2. The New Blood are the younger heels who want to climb away up the card. The Millionaires Club are like Hogan and Sting, like the big names, and they're the baby faces, but they're trying to hang on to their spot. Basically, all you need to know is that the older guys are faces usually, and the younger guys are heels usually. But they're not always that young. Mark Madden wastes some more time. He goes on a bit of a rant because he's a heel commentator, but in kind of an annoying way. And not in a way that enhances the entertainment value of the show. He's hyping up Jeff Jarrett's chances in the main event, in that tournament final for the vacant world title. His opponent will be DDP. And from what I can tell, Schiavone's just considering taking one for the team and shooting on him right now. Match number 1. We've made it. Match number 1 is the semi-final of the tag team tournament. It's Big Vito and Johnny the Bull, accompanied by Disco Inferno. They're the heel team taking on the babyface team of Ric Flair and Lex Luger. Mean Gene is backstage with the good guys and their valet, Miss Elizabeth, as well. And Flair, you might notice, isn't wearing ring attire. He's dressed to fight, the announce team say. Flair says, yeah, that's right, this is a street fight. I don't think he means that literally. I think it's just a normal tag team match. But he says, oh, it's a street fight. And he goes quite mad. He's like maximum Ric Flair in this, right off the bat. Go on then, Rick. Go on then, mate. You can do it. They make their entrance and they're ready to go. I'm ready to cheer on the babyface team. And then Vince Russo interrupts before the bell rings. It's the first match of the night. Russo adds another heel team to the mix to make this like almost like a 4-on-2 handicap match against Flair and Luger. And I'm absolutely flabbergasted. This is match number 1 of 14 matches on the card, and already it's being messed with. It's being changed around. Don't know if I'm maybe just a little bit not used to this, because in the modern day right now, Triple H seems to like set his cards in stone about 3 months before the pay-per-view itself. But there's got to be a happy medium. I'm exaggerating. I know that Triple H, I'm exaggerating. It doesn't matter. WCW, let's refocus. And that extra heel team in question is the Harris brothers, Ron and Don Harris. And I do a little jump of delight, I do, because never in wrestling history has a match been made worse by the involvement of Ron and Don Harris. The bell rings and it's a brawl straight away. Immediately off we go. Bang, bang, bang. This is action. This is what we've been waiting for. Down goes Flair straight away. And the younger heels are just kicking this defenseless older man. Flair's selling this attack by like barely moving. Fight back, Rick. Please. And mercifully, the faces do fight back as Luger knocks the interfering Disco Inferno off the apron. As Tony Schiavone says on commentary, I'm not quite sure what the rules are here. Me neither, Tony. Me neither. Flair gets his submission locked in on Johnny the Bull. The match could be over right now. Flair then lets go of the submission for no reason, as if expecting an attack from behind, which absolutely did not come. At this point, something I don't think I've ever seen before, the Harris brothers get involved and they get a near fall off a double big boot to Flair, which they somehow both manage to miss. And then the heel team do the old trope, you know, the distract the ref so he misses a legitimate tag from the babyface team kind of thing. Classic old school tag team sport, and presumably backstage Vince Russo just throws up his hands in disgust at an actual wrestling thing going on his wrestling show. On the outside, Disco throws Luger into the ring post, and then the crowd pops huge as Miss Elizabeth attacks Disco, and the camera completely misses it. And it's like the most interesting and exciting moment of the match by far, and we don't see it. The wrestling continues for a little bit, but then of course this is the Vince Russo hypermaniacal ever-changing fun federation, so something different has to be happening at every moment. And sure enough, Disco gets frog marched to the back by two guys that we don't know. I think the angle going on here is that Disco owes money to the mob or something, but who cares, man? It's Disco Inferno. Now the two heel teams start to brawl for no reason, and I'm at least expecting the announce team to be like, what are they doing? Even if they don't give an explanation, I'm at least expecting them to share our befuddlement. They don't even notice that the heel teams have turned on each other. Anyway, Lex Luger gets the hot tag, and he has to wait an age for Big Vito to climb to the top rope so he can then punch him out of midair. Does Luger hide his boredom at having to wait around? He does not. Lex forces a miscommunication between Vito and Johnny the Bull before hoisting one of them up into the torture rack for the submission victory. And the babyfaces celebrate. And my favourite part of their celebration is them all pulling their, concerned but victorious tough guy action hero faces. We did it. We beat the odds. But let's keep our eyes peeled. We're not out of these woods yet. This town ain't gonna clean itself up. Back to base. Roger that. I wish I was watching a Flair Luger buddy cop movie instead of this show. Backstage now with Mike Awesome, who is in the US title tournament, and he cuts a promo on his first round opponent. Who's it going to be? It's another one of those 2000 WCW people that I, like Bischoff, like Russo, I just feel like I can never escape. It's Ernest the Cat Miller. But then the promo is interrupted by Bam Bam Bigelow, who just wanders into frame and calls Mike Awesome a jabroni for, you guessed it, no discernible reason at all. There is no need for reason in the Vince Russo hypermaniacal ever-changing fun federation, of course. That's rule one. Mike Awesome isn't happy about this, but he lets Bam Bam walk away. Just kidding, he's waiting for him to turn around, and then he attacks him from behind and beats him down. Don't worry, this will be resolved later on. Resolved's a strong word. Next up is a video package recapping a feud between Jimmy Hart, you know, the old manager of Hulk Hogan and everything, Jimmy Hart, the mouth of the South, his feud with a man that I have only recently learned is a celebrity, Chicago-based radio shock jock, Mancow. So I'm assuming that Mancow was quite a notorious character around the time. From what I've learned, Mancow is all about free speech, and if you don't like it, you can screw off, dude! Here's Mancow letting us know what he thinks of boy bands. Ooh, cutting satire. Don't do it to a Mancow. So edgy. Just for a bit of perspective, right? So far, we've had a video package heavily featuring Russo and Bischoff at the top of the show with little to no attention paid to the actual roster. And now we get a whole video package on this Mancow guy. They are making it clear who the stars of the show really are. Not the wrestlers, you mad? Anyway, yeah, Jimmy and Mancow are having a match on this show. It's coming up next, in fact. And you know what? There is a non-zero chance that it's actually better than the opener. Here comes Jim with this big bodyguard guy, a guy named Hale. He was apparently brought into the company by Jimmy Hart, Wikipedia tells me, with the aim being to build up Hale, and he'll eventually face Hogan. And not only that, but he actually did. In 2001, in the Excitement Wrestling Federation, which was run by Jimmy Hart himself. And it was Horace Hogan, not the other one. Back to the match, Jimmy comes out. He's rocking a Howard Stern t-shirt. Try and get in Mancow's head, I suppose. I'm now really hoping that Mancow comes out wearing like a Bobby the Brain Heenan shirt or something to get into Jimmy's head. Jimmy cuts a promo now, and we see the back of his jacket as he turns around, and it's a custom-built Hale-branded jacket. Jimmy was like all in on Hale, wasn't he? Hale-mania is running wild. The entrance of Mancow interrupts Jimmy's promo, and oh my god, Mancow's theme music is something else. I'll try and do it justice, okay? I promise, I'll try my best. So it has something that all the best wrestling theme tunes have, an opening sting. You know, like the glass shattering for Steve Austin, or If You Smell for The Rock, etc. And Mancow's opening sting is, wish me luck, I'm going to do it now. His opening to his theme music is Man Cow! Oh, God. And then the song kicks in. It's got kind of like a new metal drowning pool kind of vibe. It's very like... And the vocals are like, Man Cow, come get you some! Free speech! Man Cow! What am I doing with my life? You know the upstairs neighbour who I've mentioned a few times? Very patient guy, really kind to put up with me shouting like this. He's got like a real job and everything. He's younger than me, he's like 25. He's got a real job. And I do this, whatever this is. Man Cow, come get you some. Free speech, Man Cow. The guy's name is Man Cow. But I have to admit, Man Cow's over, brothers. Look at those guys in the crowd spelling out mancow.com, except the dot is just Man Cow's head. So actually I think it reads mancow.com. This is the most elaborate entrance of the entire show. This is like, he gets the WrestleMania entrance treatment, which nobody else does. It's a bit like a scuzzy new metal Limp Bizkit version of the Godfather's entrance as well, because wouldn't you know it, all these women lead Mancow to the ring, and this one trips on the ramp. Bless her. It's so much crap in such a short space of time. I'm blown away. Mancow has quite the entourage though, everybody, including these guys. I don't know who they are, but you could tell me they were filler entrants in the 1999 Royal Rumble, and I would believe you. Finally, here's the man himself, Mancow. Come get you some. Free speech, Mancow. Plugging his own website on his ring gear. Oh, damn it. And suddenly it clicks for me, and I realise why Mancow has been given so much more pomp and circumstance than anybody on this show. It's because he's kind of trying to look like a discount Vince Russo, is he not? Mancow gets on the mic and says he's doing this for the city of Chicago, and big cheap pops everywhere, and then he cheap shots Jimmy, and the match is underway. Early on, Hale distracts Mancow, allowing Jimmy to hit a low blow, and then they brawl on the canvas. Meanwhile on commentary, Scott Hudson says, "This is utter nonsense," and Schiavone replies, "Of course it is." They're not even trying to hide what they think of the booking. The match continues. Jimmy Hart, of course, as I've said, primarily known for his association with Hulk Hogan over the years, so it's very fitting that he decides to pay tribute to his friend with a huge WrestleMania 3 body slam. Up he goes! Plop. Jimmy now gets some sick air, going airborne with a big splash attempt, but Mancow pulls the referee in the way, and now it's time for Hale to interfere, pressing Mancow onto all of his lackeys on the outside. Free speech, Mancow. Jimmy at this point gets a visual pinfall, but of course the referee is still down, so Jimmy goes to revive him. Bam! Chair shot to the back from Mancow. Free speech, Mancow. Mancow makes the cover and gets the win, and the match is over. It didn't really last very long. But then we get a post-match segment as Billy Kidman comes down and does a post-match beatdown on the already beaten Jimmy Hart. I guess he's sending a message to Hulk Hogan, because he's one of the heels, he's Russo and Bischoff's boy, and he wants to warn Hogan not to show up, because look what I've done to your friend. Yeah, that'll send a message to the Hulkster. I bet he's, ooh, not Billy Kidman. Spooky. You might have guessed by now that Billy is in the early stages of a feud with Hulk Hogan, designed to get Billy up the card, which would be achieved by having him lose twice to Hogan on pay-per-view. Oh. You know, one of the most underrated awful things about Vince Russo is, it doesn't get mentioned that often, but having watched quite a few of these pay-per-views in recent months, I've noticed that he always tries to portray himself as like a tough guy on screen. And not even really in like a stoogey, heelish, fake tough guy way, where like, you know, where one of his lackeys stands up to him and suddenly he's cowering in the corner. No, it's not really like that at all. And obviously, this thereby buries all of the wrestlers who come into contact with him in the process. You might remember that on a previous episode of this series, but chronologically on a later show, we would see Russo getting Goldberg's face, and here we see him doing the same thing, mean-mugging those two heel teams from the opener. Russo's strong style is in full effect. Vince Russo, Bomaye. Vince Russo and his protege, Tatsumi Fujinami. Vince Russo and his legendary feud with Giant Baba. Vince Russo and his his early life under the stewardship of Ricky Doza. You get what I'm... stupid. So that's 2 matches down out of the 14. And they've both been swings and misses, frankly. But could things be about to pick up? They could, brothers, because, oh my god, could it be? It is! That's the Wall, dude! This is a match in the US title tournament, and the Wall's opponent is none other than the Big Bad Booty Daddy, looking like approximately $1 trillion million. I'm quite confused though, because Steiner is clearly meant to be one of the stronger members of the roster here, at least just like below the main event scene, if not quite in it yet. But for some reason, they willingly decide to show this sign in the crowd, insinuating that he is in fact a human turd. It's an interesting production choice. The bell rings, and the pair are exchanging right hands. Lots and lots of right hands. It's mainly right hands, I'll be honest. Actually, I think there's one belly-to-belly from Scott, but then it's right hand central right now, until the Wall just drops to one knee and hits a flagrant low blow right in front of the ref. Now, I know that at this time WCW were operating under their relaxed rules policy, but my issue isn't with that. It's with the lack of consistency with which it is applied. Because if the Wall could just do this in front of the ref right now, why did Jimmy Hart need a distraction to hit a low blow on Man-Cow Free Speech Man-Cow in the previous bout? The fight spills to the outside. This thing in the crowd's having fun. The fight spills to the outside, and the Wall uses Steiner to break the guardrail. And I believe this means fans are allowed to jump the wrestlers if they want to. Now, but some rubbish indie promotion should really use that as a gimmick going forward. I would subscribe to their on-demand service now. This match, I regret to inform you all, has one of the stupidest finishes that I've ever seen. They try to put each other through a table. Scott goes to the eyes, gouges the eyes of the Wall. The Wall is therefore blinded. And what does the Wall do? Of course, he accidentally chokeslams the referee through the table instead of Steiner because he thought the ref was Steiner because he can't see. I think my favourite part of this might be Scott just casually walking away in the background like, ah yes, my plan has worked to perfection, just like I drew it up backstage. A second referee comes out and awards the win to Steiner via disqualification. Relaxed rules, obviously, yeah. Via disqualification. And the Wall gets angry and decides to chase this second referee, and that referee is gone. He is so fast, he's not even pretending to try and make this look like a close race. He was in zero jeopardy at all. It's an absolutely masterful example of running back up the ramp, the lesser seen variant of the Charles Robinson special. So I guess this referee is Robinson Charles. That's a stupid joke. Let's carry on. You know, Robinson Charles? No, I should be proud of that. I wrote that myself. I thought it with my brain. I'm sticking with it. Robinson Charles is the name of that referee. Backstage we go again, where Mean Gene is interviewing my boy, Ernest the Cat Miller, and we catch a bit of their conversation before the promo segment officially starts. And I cannot believe what I'm hearing. I'm not kidding when I report this to you. The conversation that they're sort of muttering before snapping into like promo mode goes like this. The Cat says, "Come on, old man, ask me something." And babyface backstage interviewer Mean Gene Okerlund replies, "Old man? Am I old man if I steal your woman?" What? One of two possible explanations here. Either one, the cameras have caught them just messing around before the segment without realising that they're live, pal. Or two, Mean Gene literally doesn't care anymore and has no respect for the quality of the product in which he is appearing. And honestly, I find it difficult to blame him for that. The Cat's heel promo is classic. I can hear the bitterness in my voice. He wishes that his opponent was actually James Brown, not Mike Awesome. He wants to face James Brown and blames WCW for not setting him up with James Brown, calling it the biggest redneck company in the world. Ooh, that's going to get serious heat in Chicago. The Cat, obviously, his gimmick is like if James Brown did karate, basically. That's his gimmick. I know it makes no sense. I struggle to care anymore, okay? Like by this stage, I've covered so much 2000 WCW that I've had to learn to accept that apart from Russo, Bischoff, Hogan, sometimes Kevin Nash, although he's injured and not on this show, everybody else pretty much is hopelessly one-dimensional. The Cat is jumped from behind by Bam Bam, who beats him down. I'm suspecting it's to take Cat's place in the tournament and face Mike Awesome to get revenge for the earlier beatdown on Bam Bam. Okay, fair enough. And yes, indeed, that does prove to be true as Bam Bam attacks Mike Awesome during his entrance. And the ref's like, yep, there's two wrestlers here, that's enough for me, ring the bell. What? Is it the scheduled wrestlers on the tournament bracket and everything? No, that doesn't matter. Now, the positive part of this is that it could actually prove to be quite a good match, because Bam Bam and Mike Awesome are both very capable of providing excitement, as demonstrated here by Mike's huge dive to the outside, and the crowd are chanting EC dub, and I'm like, oh my god, is the show about to be saved? He does another dive into the crowd this time. Honestly, it's kind of sick. And then they work their way back into the ring, and Bam Bam takes control, heads up top, and hits a diving headbutt. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I think it looks cool, but he hits a diving headbutt kind of like how I imagine Quap would hit a diving headbutt. But just as I'm in danger of actually starting to enjoy the show, here comes Ernest the Cat Miller. Great. The Cat super kicks Bam Bam through the ropes, gets on the mic, declares that he just beat every ass in this ring, despite beating precisely one of the asses in the ring. And then he changes into a pair of red dancing shoes, and they play his music, and the best match of the night so far is interrupted by an honest-to-God dance break. Mike Awesome clotheslines the Cat, hits a huge frog splash, covers him, 1, 2, 3, and once again the ref's just like, yeah man, that's the match, I guess. Despite starting the match without the Cat there, that is apparently a satisfactory finish. Do you ever sometimes just feel sad? Well, don't worry, because this will brighten all of our moods. It's time for another backstage segment with Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo. Russo is literally lounging in a chair, enjoying how well his show is going. Bischoff is stressed though, because he's obviously still worried that Hulk Hogan's going to show up. And like I suspected before, Billy Kidman's like, Eric, stop worrying, man, it's fine. I beat down Jimmy Hart. I scared him off. Hulk Hogan once had a monster truck match on top of this building. He is not going to be afraid because a cruiserweight beat up his manager. Next up, Mean Gene interviews Shane Douglas and Buff Bagwell ahead of their tag team tournament match. And they're so confident, they don't even talk about their upcoming opponents. They concentrate on who they think they're going to meet in the finals, Ric Flair and Lex Luger. So this feels like a bit of an error in the promo. They should have at least mentioned their semi-final opponents, because otherwise it's going to be very obvious that they are going to win that semi-final match, unless it's a masterful bait and switch designed to lure us as an audience into a false sense of security, and maybe Bagwell and Douglas aren't going to win. No, they do, and it was just lazy booking. I'm sorry. But let's find out how they win. That's the exciting part of wrestling, isn't it? Here come their opponents, Harlem Heat, not the Booker T version, the Ahmed Johnson version, and their manager Jay Biggs, and their bodyguard Cash. Good. Yep. For some reason, WCW, I'm guessing through the production choices here, are trying to pretend like Bagwell and Douglas are really over. Despite them being heels, yes, but for some reason we've got to pretend they're really popular. They get like pyro and stuff. There's several deliberate shots of New Blood signs dotted around the crowd, which have been made by the fans. No, they were definitely handed out by WCW to the fans before the event. I refuse to be told otherwise. No one sat at home, I need to make my New Blood sign. My favourites, Shane Douglas and Buff Bagwell. No, I don't think so. Like Exhibit A, look at this guy holding one, for example. Yeah, just raw excitement there. Big brawl to start, and the announce team spend this time talking about how cool these new relaxed rules are. It's pretty cool, guys. Nobody buys a pay-per-view to see a DQ finish. That's true. We just saw a DQ finish 2 matches ago. Am I going insane? Shane Douglas gets isolated 2-on-1, but then with the ref distracted, he hits a low blow. Shouldn't have to be distracted. Relaxed rules. They've just mentioned it, but whatever. And then, right. So what happens here is Ahmed Johnson is the one who took the low blow. And that leads to him being hurt and being unable to break the pinfall attempt after Douglas hits his finisher on Stevie. I can accept that as a finish of a match, right? That's fine. But I think, and I don't mean to be unkind to Ahmed Johnson, I think he kind of messes up the execution of this finish here. Because instead of really selling the effects of this low blow as a really incapacitating thing that would feasibly stop him from being able to save his friend from being pinned, he doesn't fall to his knees, he doesn't roll to the outside, he kind of just leans back into the nearest corner of the ring and just sort of Peter Griffins it, just kind of, And just to put the cherry on top of this atrocious garbage, the manager on the outside, Jay Biggs, doesn't even remember to look sad when his team loses. Mate, these are the very basics of pro wrestling. Backstage again now oh thank God, this time it's one of the few bright spots of the roster around this period, Booker T. Actually, to be accurate, his name at this point is just Booker, because he lost the T part of his name in a feud with Stevie, because not even, like, that's why he's not in the Harlem Heat now, and Booker T is just Booker now. What I'm saying is that not even somebody as talented and charismatic as Booker T can escape the vortex of mediocrity and bad storylines that is latter-day WCW. And honestly, that storyline took place in between Russo's 2 stints in charge, so I can't even blame him for that one, which makes me sad. Booker is in the US title tournament, and he's confident. He thinks he's going to win the whole thing. And you know what? I actually hope he does, or at least I hope he reaches the latter stages, so we get to see him wrestle a couple more times tonight. So let's see who his first opponent is. Hopefully it's somebody who he can beat. Oh, it's Sting. There's just no way. And one last detail, Booker's actually a heel now, by the way, having recently joined the New Blood stable. So we actually have a relatively clear dynamic in this match for once. Sting's a face, Booker's a heel. It should be actually good. That match is now, and they begin it, right, by actually wrestling instead of brawling for once. And I'm like, what is this feeling? I feel like I'm stepping out on the Hyrule field for the first time. So many possibilities. What a magical new wondrous big world it is. Da 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 da. Oh dear. They fight a bit on the outside, then they get back in, and Booker applies a rest hold. And I find myself being actually relieved to see a rest hold. Because this show has been all junk food, no vegetables up until this point. And at a certain point, you just need your veggies, man. You just need some nutrition. Booker hits his always impressive axe kick, but it only gets 2. Then a big stinger splash from Sting in the corner, as Scott Hudson on commentary furiously reminds us, this isn't just Booker versus Sting. This is the Millionaires Club versus the New Blood. Yeah, thanks for that. Nice one, man. Thank you. Sting floats over the back of an attempted vertical suplex, Scorpion Death Drop 1, 2, 3, in about 6 minutes. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I would rather have seen Booker versus Sting go for the entirety of the 57 minutes of the show we've seen so far, rather than actually sit through what we've already seen. But we didn't, so let's move on. And despite having only turned heel very recently, Booker then teases a babyface turn by showing Sting respect after the bell. And Mark Madden craps all over this moment on commentary because he's the heel commentator, being like, this is disrespectful. A member of the New Blood shouldn't be doing this, and it's disrespectful to Vince Russo. I'm like, shut up, man. The New Bloods existed for about a week. Speaking of being angry about the time allocated to things on this show, it's time for another Eric Bischoff and Billy Kidman segment. Bischoff is still paranoid about Hogan showing up to get revenge, and Kidman's still like, don't worry about it, Eric. It's going to be fine. And that's it. We learn no new information. It's exactly the same thing that has already been hammered home in the previous 2 segments of this kind. But things are about to pick up because my boy Vampiro is here to save the show. Let's go. Vampiro is one of the wrestlers in the US title tournament. His first round opponent is Billy Kidman, and I'm worried that means that Vampiro is going to instantly lose because Billy is very clearly being positioned as like the golden boy of this heel stable, the New Blood. Second to Jeff Jarrett in Golden Boy terms, obviously. Nobody's more golden than Jeff Jarrett, and don't you dare insinuate that again. So I'm not that excited about this match, sadly. Until Vampiro starts things off by hitting Billy Kidman with the border toss, Hernandez's move, and I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Unfortunately, the match never really reaches those heights again. How could it? Vampiro tries 2 more powerbomb-style maneuvers on Billy, and obviously Billy reverses both of them because he's Billy Kidman. That's just what he does. Weird little part of the match I thought was worth a mention. Kidman takes control, throws Vampiro to the outside, hits him with a right hand, throws him back in the ring, and they carry on. What? Why? It's anarchy here in Chicago, Illinois. But just as my faith in this match is beginning to slip away, things are saved because business is about to pick up as we cut to the back. And guess who's just arrived, brothers? Hogan heads down to the ring, grabs Billy Kidman, slams him onto the announce table a couple of times, and Billy Kidman is absolute toast. Vampiro makes the most academic pinfall attempt of all time and wins the match as Tony Schiavone tries to explain on commentary that this isn't actually a DQ because Hogan, yeah, he might have interfered to attack Billy Kidman, but he wasn't explicitly interfering to help Vampiro. So that's okay. Yeah, Tony, that's never how wrestling worked. Hogan gets on the mic and says, Eric Bischoff, I hope you're watching because I'm coming to get your ass right now, dude. More annoying self-characterization by Vince Russo, who kind of books this like a self-insert fanfiction, I'm kind of realizing. Eric's freaking out backstage, of course, because Hogan's just threatened him, but Russo's not worried about it because he's just a cool, tough guy and he's so incredibly chilled out. And he's like, Eric, don't worry, I've got it under control, Eric, dude. Vince Russo's so great, man. We should all try to be more like him. Back to the Hulkster now, who's stomping around backstage, and that table did nothing wrong, and he's checking rooms, looking for Bischoff, and he's kind of loosely improvising tough guy dialogue, like, when I get my hands on you, brother. It's not very convincing. But Hogan has finally found Bischoff and has him cornered. But wait, Vince Russo has called the cops, and they've turned up so fast and in such great numbers. And then, in a moment I couldn't quite believe, I was watching, what the hell is this, guys? It's only Hulk Hogan. What was he going to do? He's probably going to hit a big boot and a leg drop. Whoa, there's no need for that. Anyway, Hogan gets arrested and dragged away, and then without a cut, we segue from Hogan being escorted off by the cops to one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, now at this stage of his career, reduced to wandering the halls backstage in his attire, looking for Norman Smiley so they can have a match for the now vacant Hardcore Championship. It's a sad world we live in. By the way, just a quick thing on the Hogan stuff, right? I really don't think Hogan being cast in this role of like angry, unhinged vigilante really suits him at all. Hogan did so many things that other wrestlers couldn't do over the course of his career, right? He's an all-time top-level main event babyface, of course. His heel work in the NWO changed the industry forever. But you know what he can't do? Steve Austin's stuff. It feels like an utterly shameless rip-off of the Steve Austin stuff. Driving a vehicle into the arena halfway through the show, getting out, interfering in a match, easily beating down a heel, getting on the mic, calling out an authority figure, finding him, beating him down, getting arrested, dragged away by the cops. It's all 316. Anyway, Terry, the other Terry, not that one, walks into a room looking for Norman Smiley, and in, honestly, the best moment of the pay-per-view, everybody points him in the direction that Norman went. Instantly all rumbling Norman Smiley at once. That's good comedy. That's the best part of this show. Terry finds Smiley hiding in a toilet cubicle, and instantly the brawl is on. And yes, fire extinguisher spot, this is the match of the night, no questions asked. Terry then empties all of the cans out of a vending machine onto a prone Norman Smiley, a move which honestly looks like it sucks to take. And Smiley escapes by being thrown through a kitchen hatch by Terry, and then Terry, in what I think is a massive strategic blunder, follows him through the hatch, despite the open door being right there. This, of course, backfires horribly as Norman takes control and they brawl through the kitchen area. And then Terry somehow ends up in this position. And yeah, I wasn't kidding before, this probably is match of the night, really. I also have to ask the question, seriously, is Norman Smiley the greatest comedy wrestler of all time? Because look at him there trying to escape from the situation. It's Cartoon Network stuff. They finally make it down to the ring and Norman wears Terry out with a steel chair. This is like a far less harrowing version of The Rock versus Mankind. Or, on second thoughts, maybe a more harrowing version. Terry retakes control and suddenly, out of nowhere, here's a surprise Dustin Rhodes appearance, unannounced, to beat him up. What's going on? Terry survives a pile driver and fights his way back into the match despite it being 2-on-1, and then Dustin takes a really awkward looking bump on the side of a ladder. Look at that. Terry then grabs the ladder, picks it up and throws it onto Norman on the outside, but doesn't just throw it normally, throws it the long way, and ultimately this is the spot that gets Terry Funk not only the win, but the Hardcore title. Honestly, pretty good. A pretty fun time. Yeah, it was kind of silly and pointless, but honestly, as a silly, hardcore, mainly backstage brawl, I really quite liked it. Can things possibly get any better? Yes, they can, because if you order Spring Stampede, you get a WCW mousepad. Alright. Another Russo segment now, obviously. He is fearlessly getting in Booker's face for embarrassing him by showing respect to Sting earlier on. Also, Booker's match wasn't that long ago, but he's already fully gotten changed into a shirt and tie. Why? Things are just happening here. Things are just happening on this show. It's like a Treehouse of Horror episode. There's not as much explanation as usual as you'd expect watching a wrestling event. Alright, it's US title tournament semi-final time between Scott Steiner and Mike Awesome. Maybe the latter stages of these tournament brackets will be more about the actual wrestling, because we've had enough shenanigans for now. So they wrestle for a bit. Awesome decides to do a shoulder block but like over the top rope and almost lands right on his neck, but then somehow styles it out. And I'm like, whoa, it was almost disaster, but it's still fine. It's still fine. I'm sorry for my nervous disposition, but this show has been the most irritating thing I've ever seen. It's up there. And I've seen the movie Bullet Train, which my friend Fraser recommended to me, insisting that it was good, and it objectively wasn't, and you are wrong. Sorry, Fraser. It's awful. It's so bad. But wait, remember earlier when I said that Kevin Nash wasn't on this show? You might not remember, there's been a lot of stuff so far, but remember when I said that? I lied. So it turns out that the injured Kevin Nash was very recently beaten down by Mike Awesome, and now he's here for his revenge. Sorry, Kevin Phillips. Sorry, Squirtle. Oh, usually the first to go down, but Raphael's all right. Well, I never. Shot with the crutch to Mike Awesome, Scotty locks in the recliner and advances to the finals. Part of me kind of wants to know how much Kevin Nash got paid for doing just this run-in, but then another part of me wants to have absolutely no idea. Hey everyone, time for another exciting edition of Vince Russo acting tough around the wrestlers. This time he is berating Dustin Rhodes for, oh, so that's why Dustin interfered, because Russo was behind it. I should have really guessed that, to be honest. He's berating Dustin for failing in his interference, allowing Terry to win the hardcore title. He screams at Dustin Rhodes that, hey, I created the Goldust character and none of that was you, Dustin Rhodes. What? First of all, obviously I've been through this before on multiple Russo episodes. I hate when this sort of thing is written into a script because it breaks the entire illusion of kayfabe, the entire illusion that this is all meant to be real. If you're saying, remember that other company that we both worked in where I was the writer then as well and I wrote that character for you and I wrote your promos? It's absolute nonsense. And also I hate this because Russo comes across like such a dick. Like, I get that he's acting and he's being a heel and everything, but the ego on this guy around this time must have been crazy. Because he wrote this. Yes, he's playing the heel, as I've said, but he wrote this for his character to say. My character should be the character of clever writer man who's always correct and wrote Goldust's gimmick for him. My fists are clenching. But I wouldn't be able to, obviously I would lose a fight to Vince Russo even now, even though he's a bit older now, because he's, as we know, the strongest and toughest of them all. I'm so cross. Does Dustin Rhodes, pro wrestler on this pro wrestling show, does he get much of a response to Russo? Does he get to defend himself? No, barely a word in reply. And he actually wouldn't be seen on screen again in WCW until early 2001. I think the story, according to some, is that he was suspended for going on the radio and saying mean things about Vince Russo, which, if true, and I don't know if they are, but if true, well done, Dustin Rhodes. Give him the belt, honestly. I don't know which belt, because this is already all the WCW, obviously, isn't it? Give him the AEW. Tony Khan, strap up Dustin Rhodes right now. Time for the 10th match of the night, and oh my word, it's a big old goth fight between Sting and Vampiro in the US title tournament. This match actually makes me quite sad, because I like Sting, I like Vampiro, and yet I think this is the only time I've seen them wrestle in just a normal singles match, instead of like the fiery, spooky Bones match full of bones, and they're just having a normal contest instead, and it's just not that good. Either they don't have great chemistry, or neither guy was just on very good form at this time. I don't know. They brawl on the outside, big chair shot from Sting, which means absolutely nothing after all the weapon stuff we've already seen so far anyway, and then Sting misses a big splash against the guardrail. And it's at this stage that Mark Madden makes an absolute tragedy of a point on commentary, basically saying words to the effect of, hey guys, you know we're overselling this stuff, yelling and screaming over everything, but the action tonight really has spoken for itself. My dog. First of all, you are part of the problem there, Mark Madden, and secondly, no, I would disagree. I don't think the action has spoken for itself at WCW Spring Stampede 2000. Back to the match. Vampiro hits what I initially think is meant to be like quite a sick, innovative, shining wizard from the top, but then it becomes apparent that Sting was meant to hit some kind of reversal, doesn't quite nail it, and both men are down, and it's quite ugly, I can't lie. It's a relief, at least, that this isn't like a very key turning point in the finishing stretch of the match or anything. Oh wait, it is. Scorpion Death Drop, Scorpion Death Lock, Tippy Tappy Tap, Sting wins, Vampiro loses, and Sting advances to the final. And speaking of titles, it's probably time we actually heard from one of the actual competitors in our main event for the vacant world title, which has barely been mentioned so far. DDP and his wife Kimberly are with Mean Gene in the back, and DDP cannot wait to beat Jeff Jarrett and become a 3-time WCW champion. You think you're going to beat the Chosen One in the main event of a Russo-era WCW pay-per-view? Okay. The next match is a 6-way for the vacant Cruiserweight title. And look, I know the Cruiserweights were never going to get any sort of meaningful time on this show. But even with that in mind, I was still surprised by how absurdly abrupt this match starts. It's the most abrupt start since The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy. Except way less amazing. Is that a good gag? Way less amazing. I didn't like the way I delivered it, but it is true. And it's quite apropos that I mentioned that song because, wouldn't you know it, the boys really are back in town. The boys in this case being heel boy band themed trio, 3 count. Well, two of 3 count. Evan Courageous and Shane Helms and Shannon Moore, but like Evan's not with them this time. He's not at the show. This isn't explained. They get on the mic, Shane and Shannon, and they say, "Yeah, you guys suck. Boo us, please." Also, Evan's not here tonight, so there he goes. There's only the 2 of us. So bye. The promo's like as long as what I just did there. And before they've even finished, the rest of the competitors in the match just run on down and attack them, and it's on straight away. We don't learn who they are. Like, the commentators don't tell us who's in the match, whether it's elimination rules or whether it's just first fall to a win. They're not even pretending to care about the Cruiserweight division. There's like Hoovy, there's Lash, LaRue, not Legend. There's a few. There's the artist formerly known as Prince Ikea, mentioned him before. Crowbar is there in his jeans. The final entrant is Chris Candido. Now, it seems like there's going to be 7 people in the ring, but don't worry, it is still a 6-way because apparently Shane Helms isn't in the match. He's just accompanying Shannon. No, this is never made apparent to us, of course not. And also, the fact that this match actually has tag rules active is also never made clear. We also just have to work that one out ourselves. WCW's approach to commentating at this time is less about guiding us through the story of a match and more screaming at us until we stop asking questions. And I don't know how to recap this match really, because it's not really much of a match. It's just kind of like everybody speed running, trying to get all their moves in a very limited window. But shout out especially to Crowbar, who decides to watch the match from this position. It's not just me, right? He definitely looks like he's about to do a high-flying move. And the whole time he was perched like that, I couldn't concentrate on the wrestling. Crowbar's ally, Daphne, is at ringside for this one, and she tries to show him how to really dive off the top rope. She tries to interfere with a dive on Hoovy, but he moves, and Daphne then hits. She doesn't just like clobber into Crowbar with like an accidental crossbody or something. No, Daphne hits an accidental Hurricane Rana on Crowbar. I know certain wrestling moves require quite a lot of suspension of disbelief, but an accidental Hurricane Rana is testing my limits. Hoovy's like, "How dare you try to interfere in my match? Hi-yah!" Kicks her in the gut, but Crowbar saves the day and bails with Daphne to the outside. And now everybody dives onto each other, which sounds like a fun and exciting part of the show, but just kind of isn't. But then things go from kind of humdrum to terrifying as Shane Helms interferes in the match now, boosting Shannon over the top rope in a crazily ambitious spot. I don't know, it's like the distance away or something, or the angle they try to do it at. There's no way that Shannon's going to land on his target until Lash LaRue sprints into position to catch him, saving, I think, both his opponent's entire life and wrestling career also. David Flair gets in now. Oh, David Flair's here, by the way. He gets in the match, he's Crowbar's friend, and he chops Helms. Nobody cares. Time now for the finishing sequence. The artist, formerly known as Prince Ikea, sets up a chair like this. What on earth is he hoping to do? At least try to make it make sense. Sorry, I realised like this whole video has kind of just been me complaining, hasn't it? It's a bad pay-per-view. I don't know what to say. I read some reviews of this one online while I was researching it, and quite a few of the reviews were like, you know what, as far as 2000 WCW pay-per-views go, this is one of their stronger efforts. No, I disagree, because it's similarly bad to all the other ones I've covered, but it's bad and longer and tedious on top of all that. But wait, who's this mysterious pink lady to shove the artist onto the conveniently positioned chair? Chris Candido takes advantage, pinning the artist to win the Cruiserweight belt, and of course, his helper is revealed to be none other than Tommy Sitch, or Sonny. This is actually Sonny's WCW debut, a big surprise. But of course, it's also a Vince Russo show. So why have like one moment that's allowed to breathe and be a big deal, when you can just pile more moments on top of it? So that's why Hoovie's manager Tigress isn't happy about Sonny doing this, and they get into a brawl which is broken up by Shannon Moore and Charles Robinson, who then both get low blowed by the women, because low blows are funny. And that's the debut of Sonny, who only a few years prior was like one of the biggest names in the industry. But like, ball jokes, way. But enough fun. Get your game faces on, everybody, because it's time for an interview with the chosen one. Sorry. Mean Gene is there with Jarrett and tells Jarrett that DDP wants revenge tonight for what Jeff did to Kimberly, his wife, DDP's wife. What Jarrett did to Kimberly was accidentally hit her with a guitar. I think he was trying to hit DDP, and then she moved, or like DDP moved out, and Kimberly got hit by accident. In fairness to Jarrett, even though he's the heel and we want him to lose, he didn't hit her with the guitar on purpose. DDP, of course, does not accept that. Saying that though, Jarrett doesn't particularly feel guilty about what he's done, and he's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to win this belt. I'm going to beat DDP, and you know why? Because I've got the power of Russo and Bischoff helping me along. He's probably correct. That's almost certainly the way this is going to go. It's time for the final of the tag team tournament, and I don't think earlier I really lingered long enough on just how weird Ric Flair's choice of attire is. I know I was like, he says it's going to be a street fight, but this isn't what you wear to a street... What? Ah yes, nothing says no-nonsense brawler like all grey smart casual menswear. And if we remember rightly, the babyfaces are of course taking on the heel team of Buff Bagwell and Shane Douglas. Wait a minute. Why is Vince Russo accompanying them to the ring? And why are they fawning over him like some sort of messiah? Look how happy they are that Vince Russo is here. My worst nightmares come true as Vince Russo joins the announce team and calls himself the Batman as well. And that's because he uses a baseball bat sometimes. Now my issue here isn't that Russo's calling himself very smugly saying, I'm the Batman. And then my issue isn't with him saying it like as if it's this totally original new thing. Because that could be chalked up to like heelish buffoonery. That's not my problem. My problem is Vince Russo, not even a wrestler on the show by the way of course, booking himself to have a signature weapon which is the same signature weapon that one of your top babyfaces uses, famously so, and has done for years now. Anyway, the match. Lots of posturing to start, and Lex Luger scares Buff Bagwell with his big muscles. The heels take control when Douglas out-dirties the dirtiest player in the game, and then we get an extended period of Ric Flair being face in peril for what feels like ages and ages. Until finally, Luger gets the hot tag and runs through the heels, once again using his big muscles. I've done it twice. Then we get a hilarious moment, unintentionally so, of course, where Russo gets up from the announce table because his boys are about to lose. So he wanders over to the apron. Russo's going to interfere, but then he's clearly timed it wrong. He's way too early because the heel team just take control of the match all by themselves, and Russo just has to stand there like, ah yes, good. I'd just like to apologise for mocking the accidental Hurricane Rana spot that Crowbar and Daphne did earlier, because Bagwell and Luger repeat the trick with Buff's blockbuster off the top, and this is the result. Now it's Russo's cue as Luger makes the cover, 1-2, and Vince pulls the referee out before the count of 3. Now I'm about to let you in on a little secret. We're about to have something called a run-in in this match. Shocking, I know. But the important thing, the very key to this run-in spot, is that Russo keeps the referee distracted, and the camera lingers on him and the ref, and we know, right, this is what Russo's doing, the dirty heel. He's keeping the ref distracted. How dare he? What's going to happen? So let's see how well that goes then. Argue, all good so far. The referee walks away. Wait, who the hell is that? Get back here, let's argue some more and pretend we didn't see that. The magic of pro wrestling, eh? How do they do it? So yeah, this is the start, basically, of Chronic as a tag team. They interfere, they beat the babyfaces down, they hit their big move, and then Russo steals the referee's shirt, puts it on himself, and counts Bagwell's pinfall for the win. So he didn't need to keep the ref distracted. So Douglas and Bagwell win the tournament, and they celebrate with their new belts. Well, Russo celebrates with their new belts, to be honest. Well done, Russo, mate, you've done it. You've done this. Well done. Just a quick word on this whole tag team tournament on the whole, right? So what we've seen is, over the course of the night, Russo tried to rig the competition in his favour by involving Douglas and Bagwell, Vito and Johnny the Bull, and added the Harris brothers on the night of the show itself, and enlisted the help of the new team Chronic, and guess what? You'll never believe it. Yes, one of the 4 heel teams involved ended up with those belts at the end of the night. I mean, they're stacking the deck, but then it's just silly. In fact, generally, throughout the card, the faces have had the odds so comically stacked against them throughout that everything's just starting to lose all suspense and meaning. Unironically, the babyface, apart from Hogan, the babyface that's been presented the strongest on this night is probably Man Cow. Free speech, Man Cow. Back we go to Mean Gene. Not a lot to report this time. Scott Steiner says, "Look at the vein in my arm!" And also, I'm going to beat Sting to win the US title tournament. At least with Scott Steiner, you know what you're going to get. He is a much-needed emotional anchor on this show. Sting joins Gene shortly afterwards, and this is really specific, right? But does Sting's waiting to talk face really remind you of a babyface Will Ospreay? Does anyone else see that? Or am I going crazy? Look, do you see what I mean? Do you see the polite babyface waiting to talk face that they both do? Do you see it? Anyway, Sting does a lot of shouting, he's definitely going to win. The blood of WCW runs through my veins. You probably get that checked out. It doesn't sound healthy. And the match is next. I'm starting to run out of steam. Now, Scott Steiner takes control of this match in the early stages, which makes total sense, to be fair, because if we remember rightly, Sting had to beat Booker T, or just Booker, and Vampiro clean, whereas Steiner won one match thanks to the interference of Kevin Nash, and won the other match by tricking his opponent into choke slamming the ref through a table. It's heelish antics like that would just make Eddie Guerrero so proud, if he hadn't already jumped across to the competition by this point. Now, much like myself, the crowd are understandably pretty tired by this point of the night. They're quite burned out. They're a little bit quiet. Steiner does the right thing, tries to get some heel heat going by intimidating somebody in the front row. Unfortunately for him, he picks the least intimidated man in human history. Sting makes his babyface comeback, but Scott pulls the ref in the way of a splash in the corner. And then randomly the bell rings and everyone just pretends it didn't happen and we just continue wrestling. I think this is a genuine mistake. But given everything else we've seen on the show, it's a real boy who cried wolf situation. Sting looks to be on the path to victory, so obviously Vampiro bursts out of the canvas and drags him beneath. I'm done. I'm ready to tap out. Well done, Spring Stampede 2000. You win. And I'm not necessarily mocking the hole in the canvas gimmick. That's a thing in wrestling. I can accept that. We see that sometimes. But it's giving that spot, giving that moment to Vampiro, who we've seen on the show twice already. Oh my God, who's this horrifying supernatural person? Oh, it's Vampiro. We remember him from like 30 minutes ago. Even in like a broken clock is right twice a day situation, where WCW might blunder their way into doing the most efficient or logical thing, they somehow do the other thing instead. Even if they've been making one type of mistake all night, they'll make mistake type B. So, for example, right, that's a bit of a clunky explanation, but basically, right, what has happened is this. So we've seen so many crap finishes tonight, but this is one match where you'd almost welcome, like, right, Sting's been pulled under the ring, that should just be the finish then. But this is the one instance where for some reason WCW have decided, actually no, this match needs a proper finish. So Vampiro has to then, we don't just get the slightly spooky visual of Sting being pulled under the ring, then Vampiro has to like awkwardly heft him back up out of the hole under the ring, back onto the canvas itself. It's a ludicrous decision. Steiner applies the Steiner recliner to his now already unconscious opponent, and we have a new United States champion. It's Scott. Well done, Scott. Main event's up next at last, but the announcers obviously need some time to kill because they need to fix the canvas now. So Schiavone says, wow, we've already seen so much tonight. What on earth is going to happen next? I'll have a blind guess, Tony. I think we might see a heel victory to close the show as a result of some sort of swerve or interference. But who knows? We get big main event walking from the back to the ring entrances for both men. And DDP checks behind the wrong door for his wife. What's he doing? Try another one, mate. There she is. I have no idea if this was like a genuine mistake from DDP or a rib from Kimberly or something. DDP looks genuinely really annoyed with himself. Right, here we go. Jarrett versus Diamond Dallas Page for all the marbles. The babyface dominates the opening exchanges, even letting Kimberly lay in a slap to Jarrett on the outside. It's all fun and games so far. They brawl in the crowd for a bit to waste some time because this show was just a little bit too concise for my liking. And then when they make it back into the ring, Jarrett has a go in control of the match. DDP fights back with a powerbomb for a near fall, and oh, there he is. It was inevitable really, wasn't it? More brawling on the outside, and Kimberly pulls Jarrett's hair, so he wants her to get back, for I am the chosen one, yes I am. Inside the ring, DDP goes for the diamond cutter, but Jarrett counters it by simultaneously holding onto the ropes and knocking the referee to the ground as well, because Jarrett is nothing if not an efficient multitasker. Jarrett hits a belt shot with the referee still recovering, but DDP kicks out of the subsequent pinfall attempt and survives the figure 4 leg lock, and now starts to make his heroic comeback. Come on DDP, will we see a babyface win to finally close one of these damn shows? He builds up a head of steam and calls for the end, but I struggle to even pretend to build up any sort of excitement because honestly, I've seen this story before. And sure enough, Eric Bischoff distracts the referee. And here, by the way, I think Tony Schiavone tries to literally hypnotize us, saying maybe Eric's trying to help DDP. And even Mark Madden is like, why would he be trying to help DDP? And I'm like, yeah, Tony. Damn it, Tony. Sorry, Tony. Mark Madden's typically worse, but in this instance, he is correct. So DDP fights on, and he manages to hit the diamond cutter, and then calls Kimberly into the ring to get revenge on Jarrett and hit him with his own guitar. And can you guess what happens next? Yes, of course you can. Kimberly pulls back, and you probably did guess it. She blasts her own husband with the guitar, turning heel, and who could have seen it coming? I regret to inform you that once again, we have all been utterly and thoroughly swerved, bro. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that the heels had a secret plan and it ended up winning them the main event once again. Drat. Curses. Russo gets in the ring and all the new heel champions come out with him and they all celebrate with their belts. Steiner, Candido, Bagwell, Douglas, and of course Jarrett. And that's how the show ends. That is 4 consecutive title matches to end the night, all 4 of them ending with interference and a cheap heel victory. And what's worse is that I believe after this, the New Blood would brag about this pay-per-view as like a clean sweep of all the belts. No, it's not. It's not even true, because remember, old Terry won the hardcore title. So they couldn't even do that right. I hate Vince Russo. I hate everyone. This pay-per-view, Spring Stampede 2000, wasn't as complete a disaster as some of the other ones I've covered on this channel. Bash at the Beach, New Blood Rising, etc. But it was almost worse in a different way. Because even though those other ones were terrible, this one was harder to watch. It was a complete slog. Way too many matches, almost all of them bad or at least having a bad finish. And once again, the same ending we see every damn time. Is it any wonder this company went out of business? At least Mancow won. Thanks very much for watching. I've been Jack the Jobber, and this has been Very Weird Wrestling, covering WCW Stampede to Spring Stampede 2000. Can't speak anymore, can't speak. If you'd like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and all that sort of good stuff. A big thank you once again to everybody on my Patreon. You really do keep this channel afloat. Thank you so much. It means the absolute world. I'll be back very soon, and now I'm gonna have a big rest. I'm gonna have a big, lovely sleep, and that's gonna be nice. Take care.